Hey, thanks for checking out another episode of Triple Play. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to give us comments too. We love hearing back from you guys, the feedback on each of these episodes. We know I keep hearing lots of feedback, but it's never like always in the comments. So encourage others by making a few comments. That said, we also want to stop and thank our sponsor, Brookes Bible College. For those in the Midwest or looking for a college in the Midwest, if you're getting a Bible degree or a counseling degree, consider Brookes Bible College. Brookes has been around for over 100 years now. Very, very cool. And I know I say this almost every episode, but it's true. The average church size, 75 to 100 people. If you're coming out of college as a pastor or a counselor in biblical background, and you've got a couple $100,000 in debt, you're not going to be pastoring a church of 75 to 100 unless they're exceedingly wealthy. So, that said, consider Brookes Bible College. That's one of their things is they want to give you a great biblical degree or a counseling degree, but they also want you to walk out of there with very little to no debt. So that way you can, if you're going into missions, you're going to pastor a church, you can do so without a bunch of debt over your head. That said, we got a great guest today. So here's the fun part. I've had all little bits and pieces of your background given between Andy and John and everybody, but I don't know the story. And so I'm really curious. So we got Danielle today, and I guess we met through Resource One, right?
Yeah, we met through Andy and John.
Yeah. Yeah, and initially you were there and you were doing mostly marketing, and now you've shifted into more planning too, right?
Yeah, well, actually, I came on as an advisor. My grandfather was an advisor for 50 years.
Oh, wow.
So, his health was going down, and I always wanted to be an advisor, so we kind of were able to pass the torch. So I started out at 23 years old as a fresh college grad as a business owner with a book of clientele to handle. So I hit the ground running with business, and I'm here 6 years later.
That's awesome. Really, really cool. Well, it's a great group. People are going to hear about them later anyways, because we advertise Resource One on every episode, because we're just thankful for all their support and everything they do to help us continue to grow. But tell us a little bit about yourself. I've heard this unique story, so tell us where you grew up, a little bit about where you went to school, the St. Louis question, but your journey to where you are today a little bit. Give us the story.
So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, grew up in St. Charles. So when I went to high school, I went to Lutheran High School of St. Charles County and stayed in the backyard for college, going to Lindenwood University. But my story starts overseas in China. So when I was approximately 8 days old, I was found abandoned outside of a gymnasium.
Really?
And this was during the 90s when China have you heard of the one-child policy?
Yeah. So they didn't want to have women at that time. They're still, even though they've changed it, they're still not exactly completely open. So
it was horrible. They encouraged sterilizations, abortions. Babies were born and killed after being born. So the fact that I was abandoned meant that I kind of came out ahead of what other babies, had gone through. So about 8 days old, I was left outside, and I was left at a finding spot. So your parents would drop these babies off at a finding spot for the police to pick you up and take you to an orphanage, because if you got caught with the baby, you had excessive fines and you were in a whole bunch of trouble with the government. So the police found me, took me to an orphanage, and I lived there for the first 6 months of my life until I was adopted. So on the flip side of this, my mom, Lisa, she was 30. She had just broken off an engagement with someone who wasn't the right fit, and she said, with or without a man, I want a baby. Wasn't sure how that was going to work out, but God unveils his plans, right?
Yeah, he does.
My grandma was at a grocery store and sees a lady pushing an Asian baby in the shopping cart and walks up to her and goes, "Where'd you get your baby from?" And they talked and got the information. Grandma came home, talked to my mom. They called that agency, partnered with that agency, and about 6 months later, my mom picked me up. She flew across the country, or across the world, to China and adopted me on her own.
Wow. That's amazing.
So that's where my story starts, and grew up in St. Charles, Missouri. My mom always remained single, so her dad was a financial advisor. My mom was his administrative assistant.
Okay.
And my grandma was able to stay home and take care of me. So I spent my childhood with my grandparents or at my grandpa's office.
That's awesome. I'm still kind of blown away. So I didn't realize you were, as I said, I knew that you came from China and that you were adopted, but I didn't know you were literally left out there because of the one-child law.
Yeah.
Wow. And I bet you're a big proponent of life now.
I am, because I always think about I could have easily had such a different outcome. So when I think of all the blessings I've had here, I am a huge proponent of choosing life and choosing opportunity, because my parents kind of went the more challenging route just so that I could have some sort of hope for some future.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool too is that your mom just had this deep desire to have a baby with or without a man. And there are probably lots of women like that. Like, hey, I'm not going to probably get married. And if I do down the road, that might happen. But I want to have a kid, and I want to pass on these values. So, growing up in her, I mean, obviously you grew up at a very young age with her. You came over at 6-7 months, it sounds like. So, at that time, has she passed a lot of values on through you?
Yeah, I would say I was raised by my mom, my grandma, and my grandpa. I was raised by a village, right? I can't imagine how hard it must have been for her to go at this alone. So thankfully, she had support, and I grew up of the Christian faith. So when I was in preschool, they put me in the private Lutheran schools. So I've always been in an environment where we've learned about Jesus. And aside from learning about our faith as a Christian, I've learned finance skills from when I was little, right?
Yeah.
So I just always grew up in a family who was very savvy with money and spending and saving and investing. So I would say my financial literacy skills were above average growing up.
There you go. That's awesome. And you talked about a village. I mean, that's kind of what the church is supposed to be there too, right? You got your primary mom and dad raising the kids, but they're supposed to kind of come around and help out. And it sounds like they did too. If you're going to a Christian Lutheran school, you're going to a church, all those people probably contributed in small ways to who you are today.
Oh, 100%. I'm very fortunate for everyone who's been a part of my journey, and people who are a part of the journey at the beginning and maybe you lost touch. Sometimes those people come back into your life, and it's really neat how life comes full circle, and how at the time you don't realize what that person could do to impact your life until a later time.
When did you find out that you had been abandoned? Was that something that you found out at an early age, or was that later on that your mom had that discussion with you?
That is a great question, because my mom and my grandparents are white and I'm Asian. So obviously we didn't look alike, and going to school, everyone else looked like their parents. So I didn't. So it was never a secret. And my mom always grew up, ever since I could remember, she would always make sure that I grew up knowing about my heritage. We had video recordings of the adoption, and she would always play that.
Oh, fun.
She bought so many goodies from China she would dress me up in when I was in kindergarten and first grade. So when I was starting school, she asked the teachers if we could have a Chinese New Year party for the class. And I love that the teachers encouraged that and supported that. So
And you got your lucky money?
we did. We had gold chocolates, right? So it was really neat that she instilled the values and the heritage in me, but also my classmates, so they could learn about my culture. And then I kind of grew apart from my heritage, I would say, and it's been very recent where I'm rediscovering, where I'm from, and the whole journey from being from China. So my girlfriend's having a Lunar New Year party.
Oh, wow.
We're going in a few weeks. And there's been so many families in St. Louis that we've met where they also adopted from China. So I've been fortunate to grow up with others in the same situation. So I have my best friends, Grace and Mary, same situation. We all grew up in St. Charles. So they feel like sisters.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. So you kind of got this support system of people who've kind of had a similar experience in their background, so you guys can share a little bit and relate to some degree. Did it ever really bother you that you were from China and that your mom was white? Just wondering.
That's a really good question. I think it bothered me when I was little, and I hate to admit this, but this is how I felt. When I was little, she would take me to get my photos done every year, and she would dress me up in the Chinese outfits, and I cried. She put me in Chinese lessons. I would come home crying. She tried to make me eat the foods, and I love that she tried, and I hate that I had that attitude. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I grew up around mostly white families, but I did feel a little different growing up, and I don't know why.
Well, I mean, maybe because you felt like it was being forced on you a little bit of your culture, and even though that's part of who you are, it isn't who you are.
Exactly.
And that I've seen that before with others that have come from other countries where mom and dad are still trying to give them some of the stuff from where they were from, but they overdo it because the kids are like, that's great, but I'm not from Pakistan. I'm not from wherever it may be. I'm from America now.
Yeah, that's all I had known. So I appreciate, Mom, all the effort that you've done, because now I'm 28, and like I said, I have a friend, he just went to China, and I said, hey, would you mind picking me up some jewelry that I could buy? I'd love to see something from there. And when my friend's having Lunar New Year, I'm online trying to shop and buy all these things to celebrate. So it's coming back to me where I'm really taking in where I'm from, really at this stage in life.
Do you know what province you were from?
Ooh, that's a really good question that I should know. I was born in a city called Gaoyou, so it's on the eastern side, like the northeastern side of China, so almost towards North and South Korea.
Okay. Very, very cool. So from there, you grow up, and you said that you took in a lot of your grandparents' values. You're also obviously in financial planning and a small business owner. Obviously those were passed on. Was that something you kind of just learned working with them, or was it something you feel like you watched them and said, I want to do that, and you did it?
Growing up, I always wanted to be just like my grandpa. Apparently, when I was 6 months old, came to the States, when we got off that plane, we had hundreds of people waiting for us at the gate. And my mom said the first person I gravitated towards was my grandpa. So we had this instant connection. Always wanted to be like him. I admired what he did for our family. He was the provider. He was the breadwinner for the family, and with my mom being his administrative assistant, she got a front row seat to see all that he was doing. She never felt like the business was a good fit for her, but both my grandpa and my mom always wanted to see me become the financial advisor. So when I'm in kindergarten and you're getting asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would say I want to be a financial advisor, because there was really no other option for me in that family. So path wasn't as clear as it seems. The road was windy and there were some bumps in the journey to get there, but what is it? Difficult roads lead to beautiful destinations. So it all worked out, and I would say I definitely wanted to be like him, but God had his hand in revealing that I needed to put in a lot of work to get to where I am today.
And you went to college at Lindenwood. Did you major in business, or did that start out with something different?
I went to Lindenwood kind of by force. My mom and my grandpa really wanted to see me go there. So I didn't have much of a choice. That's where I went. And I could have gone anywhere in the world for college, and I went 10 minutes from home. had the most incredible experience though. I knew I wanted to study business. I got my degree in business administration and focused on the finance and investing and marketing classes. Like I said, had the best experience at Lindenwood, so I'm really thankful that I went there. I don't regret a second of my college experience.
Yeah, we've had several Lindenwood graduates on here. Just a week, 2 weeks ago, we had Jared Broadbrooks, and he graduated from there probably about the same time.
I love to see it. Yeah. It's really neat to run into people who went to Lindenwood and connect with other alum throughout the community. And I see kids I went to college with today. And, I went to college in 2014 until 2017. So run into people today and they just know I'm doing financial advising because they all knew I was the most determined in the class, to become this financial advisor, and for them to see where I'm at now, it's really neat to see that was kind of what I was known for as the girl who wanted to be an advisor.
That's awesome. So how did you get hooked up with Resource One? Where did that come in? Because obviously that's part of the journey too.
Yeah, when I say the journey was filled with winding roads in college, I interned at an Edward Jones branch. And I had a wonderful experience interning there. I thought I wanted to become an advisor with Edward Jones. I saw my grandpa start his business from zero, so I figured, okay, I'll do it too. And I was about to sign the papers to become an Edward Jones advisor. And then I got a call one day from my mom, and she said, I know that you have found a really great fit. Will you just give this man one call? His name's John Brookes. He is the founder of Resource One Advisors. We met with him. My grandpa was getting older. He was dealing with some heart issues. We knew he was just declining. So he was always worried about what would happen to his business. And I think most people assume that I was always that plan, but at the same time, I kind of wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to be an advisor, but I wanted to do it myself. So my grandfather and John Brookes met, and they talked about John, Resource One Advisors, taking the reins and serving my grandpa's clients. And John Brookes and my grandfather, John Darling, started talking, and my name came up. So John Brookes said, wait, let's enter her into this equation. Let's talk to her. So that night, I remember my mom gave me John Brookes' phone number, and I came home from my office at Edward Jones, called John Brookes, and we talked for 3 hours.
That's not unusual.
I know.
I love John. I literally contribute a lot of my success in life to him because he's been a big role of who I am today. So
I love to hear that. He's touched, I can't imagine how many people's lives he's touched. So after that conversation, I knew God was revealing his plan. It was incredible how clear the plan became. So we had that conversation, and I started going out to their office for interviews, and we kind of had to move things along a little quicker than normal because I was kind of at a fork in the road with what I wanted to do. And at the end of the day, I felt like John Brookes and Resource One Advisors, who's with LPL Financial, felt like that was the right path for me, and I'm so thankful that is how life ended up.
Yeah, you got a great team there.
They're so nice. It's like I have 12 big brothers at my office. They're very good to me. I'm the only female financial advisor, so they treat me like a queen and princess, and they're so nice and so respectful. As you know, I couldn't pick a better group to work with.
And now there's another female coming on with you though, right?
We do. So last year, Resource One Advisors decided to expand services, and I picked up the designation as a certified divorce financial analyst.
Oh, wow.
And we have added Nikki Clark to the team, who has experience in divorce financial planning. So she's anticipated to become an advisor here in the next few months, and we are so excited for us to team up together and serve the St. Louis community and beyond with anyone finding themselves in that unique transitional position in life.
Yeah, it happens, to good people. I've known a lot of people who have had to go through divorces in the past several years, and or not even maybe a divorce, maybe just a loved one die. Okay. Now they're trying to deal with what to do afterwards, and it is so good to have a good team to help you who are prepared to do that, to walk with you through those times.
Well, thank you. As a fellow believer, I enjoy hearing that because it was something that I had to pray with, and it was something that we had to discuss together as a team if we wanted to serve this market, because I know there's a lot of various opinions on Christianity and divorce in a Christian marriage. So we prayed about it and thought, what better team to be around you than this kind of group when you are going through something so challenging. So the people we have worked with are incredible. We have some Christian clients who align with our values here, and we've also had some non-believers, and they'll share that they're a non-believer, and I can just see Jesus working in both of us in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants divorce, but sometimes there's just, if the other side leaves you, what are you supposed to do? Right. Or if, there's different situations. We don't need to get into the whys. That's not always I always tell people, I pray for people who are going through struggles. I always pray for reconciliation. But at the end of the day, I can't make somebody do something. And so my job is just to serve them wherever they are. And, Jesus has called us to serve the least of these. And often they're in a vulnerable situation when all that's going on. So.
Exactly. We are a huge proponent of marriage. I'm not out there asking you if you hate your husband and want to come talk to me. It's if you are already there. Again, what better team to have help you through that very difficult journey in life. And getting shortchanged in a settlement, we hear of that way too often. So what we're doing as a CDFA really can help a divorce be friendlier, cheaper, and the goal is for a fair settlement on both sides. It's not trying to clean out the other person.
Yeah. Perfect. So that is where you're at today. Now, in between all that, I also saw on Facebook, I think it was, or Instagram, one of those, that you got to fulfill kind of another dream of yours recently. So tell me about that. How did that all come about?
Yeah, we saw at the office one day, they were casting there's a casting for some movie going on that's being filmed in St. Louis, which is rare to see movies filmed in St. Louis. And I started looking into it, and it was the movie On Fire, which is based on John O'Leary's life. He wrote a book about his experience being burned when he was little. 99% of his body.
I know all about John O'Leary.
And what was his survival?
So here's a little side note. He's related to me.
No way.
Yeah, he's related to my wife. So the O'Learys
really?
And the Mosses are related. Yeah, my mother-in-law. I'm trying to think of how the relationship is, but I don't know if he's their cousin to my. He might be a cousin to my wife, but they're.
I just got goosebumps hearing that.
So I've actually grown. I knew the story, and I knew I've heard him speak before, and then I heard recently about the movie, but I didn't know that was the movie because there's actually a couple going on in St. Louis. I wasn't sure what movie you were a part of. So
yeah, that's the movie, and John Brookes, he encourages us to read that book. It's, I would say, one of the most influential books he's read. So when I thought, okay, it's not just any movie. This is a movie that is very personal to our office, and it's a book that you'll find if you come to our office. You'll see it sitting on everyone's desk. So I threw out an application, and I got cast as an extra, so we'll be lucky if we see, my elbow blurred somewhere. But being a part of the behind the scenes and being on set with John O'Leary and so many other people who were part of that story was incredible. So if I
That's awesome.
cut, it's fine. But being on set, I can say.
There's been several movies cut that have been done where they did scenes out in St. Albans. Did you know that?
No.
Yes. Yes. It's been a while, but oh yeah, yeah. There's a movie called Good Luck Chuck, and has Dane. What's his name? I can't think of it. It's a comedian, and it has Jessica Alba. And there's two wedding scenes in that movie, and both of those wedding scenes are done at the St. Albans Clubhouse.
No way. Thanks for sharing. That is
True
so
story.
Cool.
I got the call one day from some friends, and they're like, "You're not going to believe who's I'm looking at from the whatever hole." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're cutting a movie at St. Albans, and there's all these people here, and there's Jessica Alba and Dane. Was it Looker? I think is his name. Anyways, and I'm like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, they're both here, and they're doing some kind of comedy, and there's a golf cart going crazy in one part." And I'm like, "Okay." Anyways, it was
Great. I need to watch that movie now.
early 2000s. There was that's one. There was another one. There was two movies cut there. I can't remember what the other one was, but they both did wedding type scenes there.
How cool.
So there you go. A little history.
Yeah, I love that. St. Albans is on the map now in Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, is there anything else that we haven't hit yet on your story? I want to make sure we catch everything. You went to Lindenwood. You had this incredible background, raised by an incredible. Did your grandfather, is he still around?
So he passed away in 2020.
Okay.
He got to see me do my thing for 2 years.
Well, really cool.
So he absolutely loved what he did as a financial advisor, but I would say maybe he died at the desk because he loved it too much and he didn't have many passions, and he focused, if you could pick between spending time with his clients or going to the gym, he'd probably pick spending time with his clients. So I admire that hustle that he had and that dedication that he had, but it has taught me a huge lesson to focus on my health. He had heart issues, so I'm really hypersensitive to taking care of our body, making sure that I get my workouts in and I'm taking care of my body so I can best serve others, because it was so tough to see you lose a loved one, right? And seeing someone that you wanted to work with. I wish we had many more years together. That was a really challenging time in my life, but also one of the big reasons I stayed back and went to Lindenwood, so we could still see each other pretty often, stop by his office, and I really enjoyed the last few years that we had together.
That's awesome. So there's like 5 areas of health they always talk about, and one of them is your spiritual health, your physical health, your business health, your financial health, and your family health. So it sounds like those are all important to you.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm so blessed and grateful for the journey. And you asked if there was a part of the story that we didn't really talk about much.
Yeah.
And there is, I guess, one factor that is such a big influential part of my life. So talking about who inspires me and who influences me, David Stewart of Worldwide Technology. Have you heard of him?
I've heard. I don't know a ton, so you tell me.
So he is a black man who grew up during segregation. He grew up in Missouri, and he grew up, not being able to join Boy Scouts because of the color of his skin. And he grew up with such adversity, and today he is one of the wealthiest people in the world. And he lives here in St. Louis. So he opened and closed so many businesses. He struggled as a young professional, and he started Worldwide Technology. And that company made it pretty big.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
It's a big one. So he started that. And his last name's Stewart. He is a true steward to others. So he supports everything he's passionate about. He is really big in investing in others. So he made the investment in me where I was able to go to college on a full ride scholarship from his foundation.
Oh, wow.
And that inspired me to want to do that and pay it forward one day. So when I said I could have gone anywhere in the world, I really could have gone anywhere in the world for college and thankfully would not have had college debt. So that made a really big impact in my life. And the second I found out that someone was helping me with college made me realize, okay, life bucket list item number one is to be able to help someone else go to college. So again, God revealing his plans. I was sitting at the desk one day. John Brookes calls me in and just kind of talks about, hey, what if you maybe set up a scholarship for someone? You always, think about what you can do for others. What if this could be, for you? And I said, John, that's like my number one bucket list item, but I always envisioned if I was fortunate to do that maybe 40 or 50 years old. So he said, why not just start now? So I made some contacts. I sent some messages out on LinkedIn and got in touch with who I needed to at Lindenwood. And we just set up a scholarship for a student at Lindenwood.
Well, that's a praise. And so I want to rewind, though. Did you ever meet Stuart?
Yes.
And how was that? Have you kept a relationship with him, or was it just a one-time meeting?
I got in touch with him through the gentleman who worked for my grandpa for many years. They were very good friends. So I would go to church with Dave and Thelma and their family, and they were always so gracious to me. I knew he was quite successful and accomplished, so I never tried to steal too much of his time. And then this was, I guess, in 2010, around then. And I mean, the last few years, he has just become such a big person. A lot of people want his time. So I don't talk to them as much as I would like to these days, but I did just send them a thank you note, reflecting on all that I've done and sharing the experience with Lindenwood and letting them know I paid it forward. And they're pretty involved in Lindenwood. That's one of the passions they focus on is the fashion and art department there. So I'm hoping that maybe we can get connected and partner up at Lindenwood somehow soon.
That's really, really cool. You've done some stuff at Lindenwood too, going back, right? So
yeah, the investment club. I guess I helped co-found the university's first ever investment club. And at that time, it was fake money that we had to invest. Thankfully, our efforts resulted in the board of trustees giving them real money, 6 figures to invest. So each year I get invited back for their annual presentation on the Lindenwood Student Managed Fund. And it is really neat to still stay connected at Lindenwood.
And has it done well?
It has done well. They have made they have made Lindenwood money, and they continue to do so, and hopefully we see Lindenwood donate some more to that pot.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. That's fun to kind of go back to and see, hey, this is something I got to help create and start and watch it continue to grow and watch those young minds behind you be able to take advantage of it. Really, that's really cool from both the scholarship and the club. So
thank you. Yeah, you can pay it forward with your time, talents, and treasures, and that's what John Brookes instilled in us, was to utilize those 3 gifts. So I try to figure out how I can do all 3, and at 28 years old I never thought I would be able to establish a scholarship for someone. And my biggest lesson I hope people can learn is, we hear about college debt and student loan debt all the time on the news. If you have an ambition and drive, go out there. There are scholarships available. There are so many scholarship dollars that go unused. So if you have what it takes and are determined to be a good student and determined to not have a financial burden of student loan debt, there are definitely resources out there that are offered.
That's really cool. So all this bragging about Resource One, If people are interested in getting in touch with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, they can call our office at 636-458-1798, or you can find me on LinkedIn, which I love LinkedIn. I have met so many LinkedIn friends who have become friends in real life. And I am actually one of the very first financial advisors to be on Instagram.
Oh, really?
And I'm sure you see on TikTok and Instagram, people are giving financial advice, but more often than not, they're not licensed to give actual financial advice. So I am very fortunate that with LPL Financial, I'm piloting Instagram for them. So not every financial advisor can be on LinkedIn or can be on Instagram sharing financial advice, but I can. So you can now reach me on Instagram. Again, I'm on LinkedIn. You can call our office, but I absolutely love connecting with others, learning about their stories, and yeah, we talk about money and finance along the way.
Yeah, well, that's a big part of the reason I love John is that he's comprehensive. He built Resource One and designed it to where it wasn't just financial planning, but they're interested in the divorces. They're interested in what the end result, getting attorneys involved for retirement and things like that. You just don't see that. I'm interested in the housing. I mean, my personal company Agape does a lot with the housing side with you guys, and so John is just a visionary, and really everybody talks about it, but John doesn't. I always tell people I run into financial advisors all the time, and they'll say, "Well, we try to do this, we try to do that," but none of them really do it well. They might have a little bit of it. John has really put together a unique way of keeping it all comprehensive, that whole circle of influence that everybody has these things. Everybody needs them. They don't always know them. They don't always know the direction where they need to go first, I get people all the time that'll call me up and be like, now that I bought a house, should I get insurance so if I die, the house is paid for? And I'm like, well, you can do that. Those policies are out there, or maybe life insurance so that there's an option for whoever's there to either pay it off or use that to cover the payment, cover other things. So maybe that's not the most important thing. And so, getting to be more comprehensive versus just giving a pat answer. And John does such a great job at that, and teaching you guys to do that too.
He does. And when you work with our team at Resource One Advisors, you feel good. We make sure that you leave the office feeling good, whether you are going through a financial struggle or you just came into some extra funds. We want to make sure that you feel good no matter what your situation is. And that's where I really love what we do, is the emotional side of it, because every decision that we make in life pretty much in some way or another may have something to do with money. Money buys us choices, and we have choices on what we can do with it. And our hope is that we're helping you feel good about your financial life and have a financially fit situation. That's
awesome. Well, hey, folks, thanks for listening in. Don't forget to support Resource One. If you guys have any financial planning needs, you already listened to who you need to call. Just give her a call, 636-458-1798 over at Resource One. Don't forget Chris, who does our intro and outro. Get ready. We're getting ready to do some new intros and things like that coming up. Chris has been working hard for us, 573-436-3717, along with updates on our website. And we're going to be entering a new page for those who've been paying attention. We've got the Beyond the Ring series. We're going to be linking up even more with them. We're excited about the upcoming Olympics, and we want to see the gospel proclaimed in all these different languages and places for people to hear about the peace Christ offers. And then lastly, Jeff Earhart with State Farm. Give those guys a call with any of your insurance needs, 314-821-5333, or Jeff. Jeff is 5333. Jeff Earhart and his team are great. We appreciate his grace in allowing Scott to be part of the podcast and get away at times. So thanks, Jeff, for that. And with that said, we'll catch you guys next episode. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure to get to know a little bit more of your story. We'll have to have you back with when you guys get your partner all worked up, and we'll spend some time maybe talking about the divorce process and how you guys work through that as you guys get some experience on it.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed our conversation.
Absolutely. We're gonna have to talk about that John O'Leary connection too. So
yes, and that's what I love about living in St. Louis. I love hearing everyone's John O'Leary connections because their family is connected so well here. So the movie, I don't know when it comes out, but it will be in the theaters. The director was the one who directed Soul Surfer, a really big movie. So this movie is going to be big and really help highlight St. Louis alongside the story of John, of course.
absolutely, and there's some really good actors in it. I love the fact I was looking at the cast and I was like, what a great, major cast. There's a lot of good major actors in it. So
okay, so a little tidbit here. What makes the movie so special is it was Joe Buck who has an influential role in his life. Joe Buck's granddaughter, Natalie, has lines in this movie. And Ozzie Smith is portrayed in the movie by his son, Nico.
oh wow.
And some of the nurses in the movie are portrayed by John's actual nurses who were there that day he came into the ER.
That's amazing. The Joe Buck story is amazing.
I'm excited. I purposely haven't read the whole book because I really want to see the movie first.
I haven't read the book. I know the story just because when I got married to my wife, it was like one of the first stories I learned about their family. This guy, John O'Leary, and they kept bringing him up, and okay. And then I find out, I started, because social media was starting to grow, and so I started seeing little clips of him giving his story, and eventually I caught a big one time, and heard him, I think it was an hour and a half long presentation, which I assume is most of his book. I haven't read the book, but I'll have to try it. I should. So I'll have to buy the book and read it. But I know the story well, very, very well. And it was a bragging point for the last 20-something years in my wife's family. And what a really cool story about it. I don't want to give too much away either, though. I'm trying to be discretionary in how I'm saying this because there's so much good stuff. Especially with the Joe Buck stuff, because that was a unique relationship. But I can also say that the Bucks' generosity goes beyond just that circumstance. I had a youth that's now does a lot of work for a major church here in St. Louis, and his disease was one that they sponsored and took care of, and he was never supposed to live. John wasn't supposed to live to be in high school, and then he wasn't supposed to live to get to college, and he wasn't supposed to live to get married, and the science behind it just keeps getting better and better and better, and so he is now, in his early, I guess, mid-30s probably, and screaming towards 40, and married and doing well and serving. He still has bouts at times where he's got to go to the hospital every so many years.
He has the gift of life.
Absolutely. And was never supposed to be able to have all that. Me and his dad were just talking the other day about that. And, the Bucks have been huge proponents of raising funds for the organization. So anyways,
we like to hear stories like that and to have pillars in our society like the Bucks and the Stewards, and that's what I hope I can do one day, is to keep paying it forward to others who are in need, because if we think about it, I was in need when I was a baby, and I've had this opportunity at life, so I want to make the most of it.
Absolutely. And I guess I can say what John has. It's cystic fibrosis. That's what they've been big proponents of over the years and helping out with cystic fibrosis. So praise God. We need people like the Bucks, who have the name and the influence to bring awareness and help raise money for those type of things.
Yes,
so,
amen.
And wealthy people to sponsor colleges, right? All that pays off, and we see it all the time. Sometimes we don't even know it, and I think that's really cool. So anyways, well, thanks for being here. We'll catch you guys in the next episode, and it'll be fun. Take care.
You're safe.